The noise of the city was deafening. Cars accelerating along congested avenues. Horns cutting through the hot afternoon air. People talking loudly, laughing, complaining about traffic, the heat, life. Life followed its frantic rhythm, as always. Like every day. But there, on that busy corner of Rua das Acacias, in the center of a city that never stopped, there was a different sound. A sound that didn't fit into the chaotic symphony of concrete and asphalt. A sound that repeated itself every day, at the same time, in the same place, with the same painful intensity. It was the sound of crying. A low, hoarse, exhausted whimper. The kind of sound that comes from a place so deep it seems to have no end. And it came from a female dog. She was thin, so thin that every rib was perfectly visible beneath her dirty, matted fur. The coat, which might once have been light brown, was now gray with dust, stained with dried mud and asphalt oil. Her brown eyes, sunken and tired, stared fixedly at a spot on the ground, at a rusty storm drain, covered by an iron grate corroded by time and rain. She cried, without stopping, without rest. It wasn't just any cry. It wasn't the bark of a hungry dog. It wasn't the whimper of one seeking attention. It was something much deeper. It was the kind of sound that comes from a place that doesn't fit inside the chest, from a pain that can't be expressed in words, but that exists, real and tangible, in every labored breath. People passed by, hundreds of them, every day. No one stopped. No one asked. No one truly saw. But what no one knew was that she wasn't crying for food, nor for water, nor for shelter, nor for attention. She was crying for something far more powerful, something that transcends reason and lives in the most primitive and pure instinct that exists. She was crying for a love that knows no limits, that doesn't surrender, that doesn't give up. And what was inside that drain was about to break the heart of anyone who finally chose to look. Every day, the same scene repeated itself like a silent ritual of pain. The dog arrived early, around 6 in the morning, when the sun was just rising and painting the sky orange and pink. She dragged her tired paws along the sidewalk, limping slightly on her right hind leg. She lay down beside the drain, always in the same spot, always in the same position. And she began to cry. Sometimes it was a sharp whimper, sometimes a rough groan. Sometimes it was just a deep, painful sigh that seemed to drain all the life she still had left. People passed by in a hurry, absorbed in their own worlds. Some glanced briefly, with pity, frowning for a second before looking away. Others looked with annoyance, as if that inconvenient presence spoiled the street's appearance. Many simply didn't see her. She had become part of the scenery, invisible like the lampposts, the signs, the paving stones. Poor thing, but what can I do? I already have so many problems. She must be sick. Someone should call animal control. Probably abandoned. So sad, but what can you do, right? And they moved on. Rushed. Busy. Alive in their own dramas. Some tried to help at first. Dona Marissa, who owned a bakery on the corner, left a plate of food beside the dog. Rice with chicken. Still warm. The dog sniffed it, looked at the plate, but didn't touch it. She wasn't hungry. She had no appetite. She had only one mission. Seu Jorge, the newspaper vendor, brought fresh water in a plastic bowl. The dog drank a little, gratefully, but soon returned to the same place. Always beside the drain. Always crying. How strange. Seu Jorge commented to Dona Marissa. She doesn't leave there. No matter what we do. She must have something wrong in her head. Poor thing. When dogs get old, sometimes they get confused. But she wasn't confused. She knew exactly what she was doing. No one noticed that, from time to time, she pushed her snout between the rusty bars of the drain. That she scratched the metal with her paws until the pads bled and were left raw. That she licked the gaps, trying to reach something down below. Something her eyes couldn't see, but her heart felt with every beat. No one noticed because no one truly looked. No one stopped long enough to notice the details. The small gestures, the desperate signs, And while the world went on indifferent, spinning in its mechanical, soulless routine, inside that dark, cold hole, damp and suffocating, something waited. Something small, something fragile, something that depended on that exhausted mother for any chance of survival. And time was running out, far too fast. Rain, Sunday cold, heat, wind, storm. It didn't matter the weather. It didn't matter the hour. It didn't matter what happened around her. She was always there. During the early morning hours, when the streets were empty and dangerous, when the cold winter wind cut like a blade, when drunks staggered along the sidewalks and rats ran through dark corners, she remained. Curled up, shivering with cold, her breath forming small clouds of vapor in the icy air, but without leaving her spot. Not for a second. During the day, under the scorching summer sun that burned the asphalt to the point of melting shoe soles, when heat rose in visible waves from the ground, when even humans desperately sought shade, she remained. Panting, tongue hanging out, drooling, exhausted, but without giving up, never giving up. When the rain fell, heavy and relentless, soaking everything and forming currents in the gutters, when thunder shook the sky and lightning tore through the clouds, she remained. Wet to the bone, trembling, fur plastered to her thin body, puddles forming around her collapsed frame, but unshakable, solid as a rock. She did not move. She did not seek shelter. She did not flee from danger. People began to recognize her, to expect her even, like expecting to see a familiar homeless person on the same corner every day. Oh, it's that dog again. She's still there? How many weeks has it been now? That's already becoming part of the scenery. Someone should do something. Like what? I don't know. Call someone. City services. The fire department. And who's going to call? I don't have time for that. And no one called. No one did anything. Responsibility was always someone else's. Always. Days turned into weeks. Weeks dragged on with cruel slowness. But no one did anything. No one truly asked what held her there. What kept her from leaving? From looking for food elsewhere? From finding shelter? From simply moving on? The dog asked for nothing. She didn't approach anyone asking for affection. She didn't bark for attention. She didn't chase anyone for food. She just cried. Softly. Constantly. Tirelessly. And she stared at that drain as if her entire life, her purpose, her reason for existing depended on it. Because it did. Down below, in absolute darkness, in the damp cold that seeped into the bones, in the tight space between dirty water and concrete, her puppies fought to breathe, fought to stay warm, fought not to die, for tiny lives, for weakly beating hearts, for hopes slowly fading, too small to understand where they were, too weak to cry loud enough, too trapped to have any chance without help. And she knew, somehow with that maternal instinct impossible to explain, she knew exactly what was happening down there. She felt each of their breaths, each weak heartbeat, each second passing, taking them closer to the end. But what could a single mother, weak, ignored, invisible, do besides cry and wait for someone, anyone, to finally look? In the third week, something began to change. The crying began to bother people. Not because it was louder, not because it was more frequent, but because it was persistent, constant, impossible to completely ignore, even for those who tried. Shop owners along the street began to comment to each other during coffee breaks. That dog doesn't leave there, huh? It's been more than 20 days. I know. I've been counting. She's there every day. Always in the same spot. Always crying like that. There must be something wrong. Dogs don't do that without a reason. Like what? You think she's sick? I don't know, but it's not normal. There's something strange. The conversation spread. Curiosity began to grow. But still, no one acted. A boy named Pedro, only 8 years old, returning from school with his backpack on his back and his uniform dirty from recess, stopped for the first time. He always passed by there, always saw the dog, but that day something made him stop. He stared at her. The dog lifted her eyes, tired and red from so much crying, and looked back at him. Not with anger, not with fear, but with something that seemed like a silent plea, a request for help that transcended species. Pedro felt a tightness in his chest. Those eyes were saying something, asking for something. "Mom, there's something wrong here," he said, tugging on his mother's sleeve. "Son, let's go. We're already late. Your father will get home before us." "But Mom, look at the dog. She's suffering." "I know, son, but what can I do? We can barely take care of ourselves. Come on." "But..." "Pedro, I said let's go." And he left, reluctantly, looking back every 2 steps. The dog kept staring in his direction until he disappeared around the corner. Alone. Once again. Always alone. But something was changing. Slowly, people were beginning to notice. To feel that there was something beyond the obvious. That the crying wasn't for nothing. That there was a reason. An important reason. That mother was screaming for help in the only way she knew. The next day, Pedro returned. He brought a piece of cake from his school snack. He placed it in front of the dog. "Here, I brought it for you." The dog sniffed it, didn't eat it, but she licked the boy's hand. A small gesture, but deeply meaningful. Pedro smiled. Then he looked at the drain. "This is what you keep looking at, right? Is there something in there?" He got closer, crouched down, looked through the bars. Dark, very dark. You couldn't see anything. But then he heard something. Faint, almost imperceptible, like a distant hiss. "Mom, Mom, there's something in here." The mother, irritated, came back. "Pedro, for the love of..." "No, Mom. Seriously. Listen." She crouched down, reluctantly, pressed her ear to the bars. And she heard it. A whimper, so faint it almost seemed imaginary. But it was there. Her eyes widened. "My God, there's something alive in there." And finally, someone was going to hear. Someone was going to act. It was on a Thursday afternoon at 5:23 p.m. A man named Carlos was walking down the street, heading home from work like he did every day. He worked as an accountant in an office 6 blocks away. He always took the same route, always saw the dog, always ignored her like everyone else. But that day, something was different. Maybe it was the exhaustion in her eyes, even deeper than usual. Maybe it was the weaker, more desperate whimper. Maybe it was the way she tried to stand up when he passed, but didn't have the strength and collapsed back onto the ground. Maybe it was simply the right moment, the perfect alignment of fate. Carlos stopped. He looked at the dog, truly looked, for the first time, and he saw the protruding ribs. He saw the injured, bleeding paws. He saw the red, swollen eyes. He saw exhaustion in every breath. He saw a mother slowly dying. "My God, what happened to you?" The dog looked at him, and for the first time in weeks, she stood up. With difficulty, trembling, but she stood. She approached him, slowly, unsteady, gently tugged at his dress pants with her teeth. Gently, but desperately. "What is it, girl? What do you want?" She let go of the pants, walked to the drain, pushed her snout between the bars, whimpering, scratching, looking at Carlos, then at the drain, then back at Carlos again. The message was clear. Carlos frowned, moved closer, knelt beside her, dirtying his expensive dress pants on the filthy ground. "What are you trying to show me?" He looked into the drain, saw nothing, just darkness. Then he pressed his ear against the cold, rusty bars. Silence. He waited. Still silence. He was about to give up when a sound, faint, very faint, almost imperceptible, but unmistakable. Whimpers. Small, high-pitched, desperate, too weak. Puppies. Carlos's heart raced. He looked at the dog. She stared back at him with those deep eyes, filled with canine tears, as if saying, "Please, please, you're my last hope. Help them. Save my babies." Carlos stood up quickly, tried to pull the drain cover. It didn't budge. Too heavy. He pulled harder. Nothing. Rust had welded the metal to the concrete. Damn it. He looked around, searched for something he could use as a lever. Nothing. He took a deep breath, pulled out his phone, hands shaking, called the fire department. "Hello, I need urgent help. There are puppies trapped in a storm drain. Rua das Acacias between 15 and 16 streets. Yes, puppies. I don't know how long they've been there. The mother is here. Please come quickly. They're alive, but they seem very weak. Please." He hung up, looked at the dog. "They're coming. Everything's going to be okay." The dog, for the first time in 3 whole weeks, stopped crying. Not because she was relieved, but because she had no strength left. She lay down beside Carlos, rested her head on his knee, and waited, because finally someone had looked. And more importantly, someone had listened. "23 minutes later, a fire truck stopped at the corner, its siren echoing down the street. 2 people got out quickly, a tall, strong man in an impeccable uniform, and a woman with her hair tied back, carrying a backpack of equipment. Both approached with fast, determined steps. Carlos waved desperately. "Here, it's here." They came closer. The firefighter, with Lieutenant Marcos written on his uniform, looked at Carlos. "You called?" "Yes. There are puppies trapped down there. You can hear them." Marcos looked at the dog, then at the drain, then at his colleague. "Jessica, did you hear that? I heard it on the radio. Let's check." Marcos knelt down, pressed his ear to the bars, made a gesture for silence. Everyone waited. After a few seconds, he looked at Jessica and nodded. "There's something there, yes. Alive. Several by the sound of it." Jessica opened her backpack and took out a powerful flashlight. She shone it into the drain through the bars. What she saw made her stomach churn. Down there, about 2 meters deep, in filthy water reaching halfway up their tiny legs, were 4 minuscule puppies. Wet, shivering uncontrollably, covered in mud, dirt, oil, and waste. They could barely move, their eyes still closed, maybe a week old at most. Their fragile little paws too weak to support their own weight, slipping on the wet, filthy surface. One of them was completely still, partially floating in the water. "My God!" Jessica murmured, feeling tears burn her eyes. Marcos looked, his jaw tightening. "Let's get them out. Now." Jessica grabbed the crowbar. The dog moved closer to the edge, trying to see, trying to reach. She whimpered loudly now, as if she felt that finally, her babies would be saved. Carlos gently held her by the shoulders. "Easy, girl. They're getting them out. Everything's going to be okay. You did it. You saved them." With a large, heavy lever, Marcos forced the drain cover. The metal groaned loudly, resisted, protested. But finally, with a sucking sound and rust breaking apart, the cover gave way. They lifted it and threw it aside with a metallic clang that echoed down the street. Now the hole was open. Dark, deep, stinking. "I'll go down," Marcos said. "Jessica, stay up here. I'll pass them up one by one." He prepared himself, put on thick gloves, grabbed a small rescue bag, and began descending the metal ladder embedded in the wall of the drain. The dog stayed at the edge, looking inside, whining loudly, nearly frantic. Marcos reached the bottom. Cold water reached his knees. The smell was unbearable, but he ignored it all. He saw the puppies, and his heart broke. He carefully picked up the first one, a tiny male, light brown, shaking violently. He placed him in the bag and climbed up. "First," he shouted, handing the bag to Jessica. She opened it, looked at the puppy, so small it fit in the palm of her hand. He went back down, grabbed the second, a female, black with a white patch on her chest, still moving. He climbed up. Second, he went down again, grabbed the third, another male, completely soaked and covered in mud. Third, and finally the fourth, the smallest one, the one that had been floating. Marcos picked him up with even more care. Felt a very faint pulse. Still alive, but barely. He climbed up quickly. "This one's in very bad shape. We need to go now." When Jessica placed the last puppy on the ground, the dog rushed toward them. She sniffed each one frantically, licked their faces, checked if they were breathing, gently nudged them with her snout, trying to warm them. 3 of them moved. Tiny whimpers came from their minuscule throats. But the fourth, the smallest, didn't move. The dog pressed her snout against him, gently nudged him, licked his head desperately, tried to warm him with her already exhausted body. Carlos knelt down, picked up the puppy with extreme care, brought him close to his ear, felt a breath, so faint it was almost imperceptible, felt a pulse, irregular, very weak, but it was there. "He's alive, but we need a veterinarian. Now." Marcos looked at Jessica. Take them in the truck. I'm coming with you. What's the nearest clinic? There's one 3 blocks from here, Carlos said. Vita's clinic. I know it. Then let's go. Jessica carefully placed the puppies in a thermal box lined with towels from the truck. The dog tried to jump into the vehicle, but didn't have the strength. Carlos picked her up in his arms. Surprisingly light. Terrifyingly light. She weighed almost nothing. He placed her inside the truck, next to the box with her babies. And for the first time in weeks, the dog was no longer alone. There was hope. For the first time, there was real hope. The fire truck sped through the streets with its siren on, carving a path through the late afternoon traffic. Inside the vehicle, the dog never took her eyes off the box. She sniffed constantly, checking if her babies were still breathing. She licked their little heads whenever possible. Carlos sat in the passenger seat, phone in hand, calling the clinic. Hello, Vita's clinic? I need to speak to a veterinarian urgently. Yes, it's an emergency. We have newborn puppies rescued from a storm drain. Very weak. We'll be there in 2 minutes. Please prepare everything. The truck braked sharply in front of the clinic. It was a small building, painted light blue, with a glowing paw-shaped sign out front. The doors opened. Jessica grabbed the box with the puppies. Carlos grabbed the dog. Marcos pushed open the clinic door forcefully. Emergency. We need help now. The receptionist, a young woman no older than 20, widened her eyes and pressed a red button on the wall. Seconds later, a door opened and a woman in a white coat appeared, gray hair tied in a bun, glasses hanging around her neck. Dr. Paula, a veterinarian for over 25 years. She had seen everything, but when she saw that scene, her heart tightened. What happened? Puppies. They were trapped in a drain. Carlos explained quickly. This is the mother. She spent weeks trying to get attention. Paula looked at Carlos with admiration. You saved her. If it had taken one more day, she might not have survived either. Her body was already starting to fail. Carlos felt a lump in his throat. I just looked. She's the one who fought. For weeks. Paula nodded, moved. I'll need to hospitalize her as well. For fluids, antibiotics, controlled feeding. She needs intensive care. Do whatever is necessary, Carlos said without hesitation. Everything. I'll pay. And in that moment, for the first time in 3 weeks of desperation, the tide had turned. The following hours were filled with intense, meticulous, tireless care. Paula and her team worked as if they were in a human hospital operating room. They monitored every breath, every heartbeat, every body temperature. The puppies were fed through delicate tubes, receiving special milk for newborn puppies, warmed to the exact temperature. Tiny drops, every 2 hours, without fail. The dog received 2 liters of 4 fluids in the first hour. Broad-spectrum antibiotics, vitamins, mineral supplements. Her body was so depleted that it absorbed everything like dry earth absorbs water. Carlos stayed at the clinic all night. There was no rational reason for it. He didn't know that dog before that day. He had no obligation whatsoever. He could have gone home, showered, eaten dinner, slept in his comfortable bed. But he couldn't. He couldn't leave her. Not after seeing what he saw. The dedication, the love, the superhuman, or rather, super canine, strength. Something in him changed deeply by witnessing that mother fight so hard. By seeing her refuse to give up, even when everyone ignored her. Even when the entire world turned its back. Around 3 in the morning, Paula entered the waiting room where Carlos was dozing in an uncomfortable chair. Carlos. He woke with a start. Yes? What happened? Are they okay? Paula smiled. A tired smile, but genuine. They're going to be fine. All 4 of them, including the smallest one. His temperature stabilized. His breathing normalized. He even fed for the first time. Through the tube, but he fed. Carlos felt tears burn his eyes. He wasn't usually an emotional person, but this was different. And her, she'll be fine too. She's sleeping now. The first time she's fully relaxed since she arrived. Her body finally understands that it can rest. that the fight is over, that our babies are safe. Carlos rubbed his face, wiping away tears without shame. Can I see them? Of course. Come. She led him to a smaller room, with dim lights and a quiet atmosphere. There lay the dog, resting on a soft, heated bed, connected to an IV drip that fell slowly, sleeping deeply for the first time in weeks. And beside her, in a transparent incubator, the 4 puppies. Clean, dry, warm, piled on top of one another like healthy puppies do. Tomorrow, when she wakes up, I'll let her have contact with them. For now, both need uninterrupted rest. Carlos stood there for long minutes, just watching those 5 lives that, only hours before, had been on the brink of death. And now there was a future. There was tomorrow. The following days brought visible transformation. On the first day, the dog woke up disoriented, looked around, searching. Paula immediately understood. She brought the incubator closer. The dog saw her puppies, and her tail weakly thumped against the bed. She tried to get up, but Paula gently stopped her. Easy, Mom. You still need to recover. But look, they're fine. See? All 4. The dog sniffed the incubator, whimpered softly, not in pain, in relief. On the second day, Paula allowed supervised contact. She placed the puppies beside the mother for 15 minutes. The dog licked them from head to tail, checking every inch, relearning their scents. The puppies, even with their eyes still closed, instinctively crawled toward their mother's warmth, sought out her teats, began to nurse. For the first time, the dog closed her eyes not from exhaustion, but from peace. On the third day, she managed to stand up on her own. Still weak, still unsteady, but she stood. She ate on her own for the first time. Special food, nutritious, moist, and easy to digest. She ate slowly, but she ate. On the 4th day, she got a full bath. Brown water ran off her fur, revealing her true color, light golden brown, with white patches on her chest and paws. You're beautiful. You know that, said Carol, the assistant, as she rinsed her. Very beautiful. You were just hidden under all that dirt and suffering. On the 5th day, the wounds on her paws began to heal. She was able to walk without limping. On the 6th day, the puppies opened their eyes for the first time. For pairs of bluish eyes, which would later turn brown, looking curiously at the world. The dog watched them, and if someone could read canine expressions, they would know she was proud. On the 7th day, Carlos arrived to visit, as he did every day after work. He brought treats, toys, affection. When he entered the room, the dog didn't just wag her tail. She stood up, walked over to him, and rested her head against his leg. A simple gesture, but full of meaning. It was a thank you. It was a you saved me. It was an I trust you. Carlos knelt down, hugged her carefully, and cried. You're incredible, he whispered. So incredible. Paula watched from the doorway with her arms crossed, smiling. You know, she said, in 25 years of this profession, I've seen many cases of maternal devotion in animals. But this one will stay with me forever. Carlos looked at her. What's going to happen to them now? To her and the puppies? Paula sighed. Well, the puppies, when they're ready, we usually put them up for adoption. We already have a list of interested families. Actually, the story spread. A lot of people want to adopt. In her, silence. She deserves a home. A real home. After everything she's been through, she deserves someone to care for her for the rest of her life. Carlos looked at the dog. She looked back at him with those deep brown eyes. And in that moment, he knew. I'll take her. Paula's eyes widened. Seriously? Seriously. She fought so hard. She deserves someone who fights for her too. And I want to be that person. The dog wagged her tail, as if she understood every word. And for the first time in her life, there was a home waiting. Three months later, life was unrecognizable. The dog, now named Hope, chosen by Carlos because she never lost hope, even when everyone lost hope in her, lived in a comfortable apartment with a balcony, her own soft bed, always full food bowls, fresh water, and toys scattered around. She had gained weight. Her fur shone, Her eyes no longer held that deep exhaustion. There was life in them, joy even. Every morning, Carlos took her for walks in the park. She ran, played, chased pigeons without really wanting to catch them. She was happy, genuinely happy. The puppies were adopted by families carefully selected by Paula, each one into a home full of love, space, and security. The smallest one, the one who almost didn't survive, was adopted by Lieutenant Marcos himself, the firefighter who rescued him. "I can't stop thinking about him," Marcos had said. "That little puppy fought so hard. He deserves a home with someone who fights for him." Pedro, the boy who first heard the whimpers, convinced his parents to adopt one of the puppies. The black female with a white patch. "She was the one who showed me, Mom. She taught me to stop and listen. Now I want to take care of one of her babies." And the parents, seeing maturity and compassion growing in their son, agreed. The other two went to a family that already had dogs and experience with puppies. Paula organized a reunion between Hope and her puppies 3 months after the rescue. It was on a Saturday morning in the park where Carlos always took Hope. When the puppies, now grown, fluffy, noisy, and full of energy, saw their mother, something instinctive made them run toward her. Hope recognized them immediately, sniffed each one, licked their snouts, played with them for the first time in her life, without worry, without fear, without pain. It was a reunion, but also a farewell, because now each one had their own home, their own family, their own future, but they would never forget where they came from. The dark drain, the mother who never gave up, the man who finally stopped to look. When the meeting ended and each family went home, Carlos and Hope were left alone in the park. She looked at him, wagged her tail. Carlos stroked her head. "You saved them, you know? You, not me, not the firefighters. You, with your love, with your persistence. You taught me that it's worth stopping. It's worth looking. It's worth caring." Hope rested her head against his leg. And in that moment, there was no more pain, no more despair, no more crying. There was only love. Pure, unconditional, eternal, the kind that transcends species, the kind that saves lives, the kind that changes the world one pause at a time. Hashtag powerful closing. Sometimes when Carlos takes Hope for a walk and they pass that corner, that street, that drain, she stops. She looks, just for a few seconds, as if remembering, as if honoring those days of struggle, those nights of pain, those weeks of waiting. But she doesn't stay. She doesn't cry anymore, because now she knows. She knows the fight was worth it. That persistence had meaning. That loved one. And Carlos always stops with her, kneels down, strokes her head. "You are the bravest dog that ever lived. You know that." And then they move on, back home, where there is warm food, a soft bed, safety, love. Hope's story spread through the city. Many people now stop when they see an animal in need. They look more carefully. They listen more closely, because they learned a precious lesson, that no matter how small the cry may be, no matter how invisible the suffering may seem, no matter how many people pass by without seeing, you could be the one who stops, who looks, who saves. Sometimes, all we need is to look a little deeper, because there, in that silent pain, in that ignored cry, in that forgotten drain, may be the most beautiful love story you will ever witness. And all begins with a simple choice. The choice to stop, the choice to see, the choice to care. Even without a home, she never stopped being a mother. If this story touched your heart in any way, share it with someone who needs to be reminded that empathy still exists, that a simple gesture can change an entire life. It can save not one, but 5 lives. That pausing for a minute, bending down, looking, listening, can be the difference between life and death. And if you're walking down a street now, or tomorrow, or next week, and you see an animal in need, don't pass by. Don't ignore it. Don't think someone will do something. Be that someone. Because maybe, like Hope, that animal is fighting for something greater than itself. Maybe it's crying not for food or shelter, but for love, for family, for purpose. And you can be the answer it has been waiting for, days or weeks or even months. Sometimes all it takes is looking. Sometimes all it takes is caring. And always always, it's worth it. Thank you for watching. Thank you for stopping. Thank you for looking. And most importantly, thank you for caring.